Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm Stephanie. This is the week 37, September the 8th through the 14th weekly wrap-up. As I said, this is the week 37. Can we talk about how the year of 2019 is almost over? Ridiculous. We're in September. It has been crazy. I am going on like month 4 of not having a job. This is crazy. I've never really went this long without having a actual physical job that I actually go into since I was like 17 years old. Wow. It has been crazy. But it's all good. It's all good. You know, life throws you things and then you have to start new chapters and you have to change your life and it's just crazy. And yeah, so that was not planned at all whatsoever. This week I read some very interesting books. So this review is probably going to be like super long. So if there is a book that you were specifically looking for from either the thumbnail or you know that I read this week because you follow me on Twitter and you saw some of my reviews go up and you wanted to hear more about them and that's what you're specifically here for, please feel free to go down in the description box. Always check the description boxes on these videos because I will timestamp and show you exactly where the book that you're looking for is, what have you. Also, if you're listening and it's playing in the background, you can always come back to the videos and check the description boxes because I will normally list the name of the books and the authors down in that description box as well. I'm thinking about doing a whole video about how to watch my videos, you know, how to properly watch one of my videos, not necessarily any other booktubers videos, but my specific videos. Let me know down in the comment section if that's something you guys would like to sort of see flushed out. And I might think about doing that. Other than that, I think I need to get to the reviews from last week because it's going to be a long one, so hold on to your boots, straps, and let's get this started. So last week I started off reading and finishing The Outpost, Jameson Valley number 4 by Devney. I place this in romantic suspense. I give this book 4.5 stars. I give it 2 Steam fans. I listen to it as an audiobook. I listened to it for Sabathon for the challenge of being put off. This book has been out for about a year and I hadn't gotten around to finishing it. I started the series last year and was loving the series and hadn't picked this one up, so I felt it was a good time to pick it up. I also read it for Romance Genreathon for small towns because Jameson Valley is in like a small town in Montana, Wyoming. One of them states over there in the West that's not really West. But this book follows Sabrina, who is an investigative reporter who is running from Washington to her best friend's sort of area, and that's in Jameson Valley. And they have to sort of hide her because she's now done an expose story about some really bad men. And Bo is our guy that is a hotshot, who's a firefighter, who's wilderness everything, yummy goodness, and he takes her to the outpost where hotshots usually go when there's a forest fire or, yeah, a forest fire, mountain fire type thing, and they kind of stay there. Well, this one is abandoned right now or isn't being, you know, used. So she goes there to hide out. She's off the grid and she starts to go stir crazy and they find that they have an attraction towards each other, but because she's on the run and being hidden because of her story, you know, there's all of that. And then there's a suspense part of it because she's an investigative journalist and being on the lam and being hidden, and it was so good. It was so very good. It was everything that I had wanted it to be, and I was super excited to finish reading it. Now I'm really excited to get to the other 2 books in this series. I was talking to another bookish friend and we kind of figured out together that this entire series of Jameson Valley has a bit of romantic suspense to it. It has the romance, but then it has some sort of craziness that ends up happening suspensefully. And I would definitely put this whole entire series in that, because there just is. I mean, this one starts off showing you, hey, there is something going on, and, you know, this person, Sabrina, our main female character, is on the run. But the first 3 books, the suspense didn't come, and it was sort of a hidden thing until, like, later on in the books, and then you're like, oh, what? Okay, I get it, yep. But regardless, I think you guys should go check out this series. This book was amazing, the rest of the series is amazing, and I can't wait to get to the other 2 books. Then I picked up Shortcake by Lucy Watson, and this, I'm sorry, but I have to categorize this as a wannabe rom-com. The cover says it's a sexy romantic comedy. No. I give this book 2.25 stars. Yeah, I had to think about that one. One Steam fan, I read it as an ARC through NetGalley. I read this for Sabathon for blue on the cover. Ooh. Woo. This book follows Amelia, who is a home care nurse, and the person that she is taking care of dies. In walks Ben, who is the grandson of that person. Both of them have like this past that isn't really fleshed out. Then the will is read, and Amelia and Ben have to stay in this house of the dead charge and work on the house together as part of their inheritance. He thinks that she just used his grandmother because of her wealth. She was actually trying to get away from some things. There is this like weird semi-incestuous like love triangle thing going on. I cringed all the way through the book, and then there's no resolution to it. It was like, okay, that's done and over with. We're done with that sort of storyline. And it was like pop culture. It was like pop culture reference drop all over the place too. It was like 80s, 90s, 2000s references for books and movies and taglines and movie lines and things like that were just, the whole book fell flat. Fell completely flat. And I'm pretty sure this is her debut novel, so hopefully somebody tells her, or tells the author that this was a miss. But looking at some of the reviews that were posted, y'all lied to this author. The next book that I finished was Untouchable, Ravenwood #2 by Talia Hibbert. I place this in interracial contemporary. I give this book 4.5 stars. I give it 3 Steam fans. I listened to it as an audiobook. I listened to it for Sabathon, for Makes You Feel Nostalgic. And this is a Black author. Oh my goodness. I thought the first book in this series was good, but this one right here was absolutely amazing. Our character Hannah is this no-nonsense Black chick this is all set in Europe, in England, I think? Yeah, somewhere in England. So it actually also falls in with Romance Genre-a-thon for small towns, because this is a small town of Ravenwood. And this is the sister of the female character that we met in the first book, Hannah. She's quirky, she's different, she deals with depression and anxiety, and this one got me. This book, like, got me. Hannah knew Nate when they were kids. Nate ends up moving away, gets married, has kids, single dad story. Yes. And he ends up moving back to Ravenwood to take care of his mother, and he needs some help, and he's lost his passion for photography. And I was just, this book just rips out your heart and just takes you through all the emotions. I cried through this. I felt what Hannah and Nate were going through, because they both end up going through some things, and it's a secret crush, and I was so here for it. I was so here for it. This book makes me want to finish reading this entire series, because I believe there's 2 other books in the Ravenwood series, and I can't wait to get to them, because if they're anything like this one, because some of the characters that are introduced get their own book, and I'm really looking forward to it. The next book that I read was Work Me Up, Riggs Brother number 3 by Julie Kriss. I placed this in New Adult. I give this book 4.25 stars. I give it 3 Steam fans. I read it as an ebook in response to my first 2 reviews of this series, or reviews of this series for the first 2 books. The PR company reached out and said, hey, would you like to read the other 2 books in this series? And I said, yes, please. So this follows the Riggs brothers. If you did not see those other 2, let me give you a little bit of backstory on them. This is a small town in Michigan, and they are sort of the family that is from the wrong side of the tracks. They've gotten a bad name. There was a mechanic's son that was sort of a wanderer. He comes back to town. There's an ex-con son, brother, that lived in Detroit, but now he's back in small town. And this book follows the baseball player that played in the minor leagues, and he ends up getting injured. And then he comes back to town to take care of his son that was sort of left on his doorstep when he was younger. And the 2 of them had been trying to sort of make it through. He figures out that he needs a nanny. In walks this nanny, who he happens to know. So our baseball player is named Ryan, Riggs brother number 3. And Kate is our nanny. The 2 of them actually had a history back when he was the bad boy of baseball, had a hookup, a one-night stand, and they had attraction back then, but then they never called each other and never had any contact or anything like that. This is now 5 years later. He needs her help because she doesn't know what she wants to do now that she's out of college, and she has degrees in education and early education and stuff like that. So, he is like, they are fighting their attraction, that whole, should I get with my nanny? Shouldn't I get with my, shouldn't I? And it was just glorious. There was very, very little flashback in this one, and I was here for it. The story really revolved around Ryan and Kate, and I loved every minute of it. There was appearances from the other Riggs brothers in the story, which was cool, but it wasn't like it was flashbacky like the first 2 books were. So I was like, oh, I'm loving it, and I had to continue on. And I was like, this author has either seen her ways, or she just really gotten better with the storytelling and not doing flashbacks, and I was here for it. The next book that I finished was Jane by Michelle Onuorah. Sorry that I butchered your name. I listened to it 3 or 4 times for the audiobook, and I still couldn't get this right. I am placing this in Christian romance, period. This is going to be one of them long reviews, because, yeah, I have things to say about this book. I'm giving this book 2.5 stars. I give it 1 Steam fan. I listened to it as an audiobook, as I said. And this is the Black author. This book follows Jane, who you find out in the beginning that she is in the foster system, and she has some bad things that happen to her. Fast forward, you find out that the girl that she kind of felt like was her sister in the foster system had gotten adopted and moved on to a very wealthy family. And Jane just works her butt off to do what she needs to do to make herself better after she had aged out. The two of them end up running back into each other. Jane as a professor, the other girl who is named Alexa as a student at the university that Jane works at. They reforge their relationship, and Alexa actually has a brother that ends up being interested in Jane. Now, the two of them have chemistry right off the bat. I was here for it. It's an interracial story. I was here for that. This had been sort of thrown upon me, or really, really suggested highly by Amazon and Google and everything like that. It kept popping up on my Facebook and on my Amazon suggestions, things like that. So I was like, I'm gonna read this. And then I read it, and it was good up until about 75%. And then, because there were undertones of the whole Christian life thing going on, but then at that 75% mark, it like flipped a switch, turned left, and went all sorts of Christian religion and over the head thoughts and opinions about faith and things like that. I was like, oh, I was duped again. I was duped again. Then I get to the end of the book, and there's an author's note. The author herself says that this book is sort of a Christian romance, but shouldn't be labeled as a Christian romance because it's a romance, and just because it has religious faith in it, it shouldn't be pigeonholed. But when the thoughts and opinions within the story are completely of Christian faith and almost like bordering on if anything else is bad, I just, no. And like all of the actions that happened within the story, things that happened start to revolve around, this is God's plan. Ooh. Yeah, no. No. So, go in if you want. I'm not canceling it, not at all. If that's your thing, please read it. But it wasn't my thing, and no. I won't be reading anything else by this author. Because she made her point very, very clear about her writing at the end of the book in those author's notes. And I won't be into that. The next book that I finished was Into White by Randi Pink. Whew, this I'm placing in YA Christian fiction. It's not a romance at all. This is probably going to be my most controversial, long-winded sort of speech. So if you're not going to want to hear what I have to say, make sure you time jump to the next book. Because, yeah, I'm about to get into it on this one. So, this one I DNF'd. I couldn't do it. I listened to it for an hour, and if I was to give it anything, I think I gave it 1 star over on Goodreads, if it even put it on there. But I DNF'd it. I was not having it. So, this is a Black author as well. I listened to it as an audiobook. I picked it up because it was controversial over, I want to say, either on Twitter or Instagram. I'm pretty sure it was Twitter that brought this book to my eyesight, saying that the premise behind the book is that the young girl, LaToya, lives in small town Alabama. She is one of a handful of Black kids that go to this predominantly white school. And she is bullied. And she feels like she just doesn't want to go on with life. So she prays to God and Jesus. Jesus. To make her white. Or make her any color but black. So, you probably are thinking, oh, that's gonna be very, very bad already, right? Yep, I was thinking the same thing. However, a little bit of history from me. When I was growing up in Ann Arbor, the high school that I went to was predominantly white at the time. It's not anymore. It most definitely isn't anymore. But when I was going there, it was a good mix of culture within the high school because we were so close to the University of Michigan. But still, you had very much a sort of separation. Not necessarily separation, but a smaller population of black kids when I was going there. Now, I was like, okay, I'm going to read this book because I sort of was in that situation. I sort of get that. Let's see how this author does this. And we started off, and I'm like, okay, so she prays to God and prays to Jesus. Jesus! To be white. Okay, I can feel that. But then it just went downhill from there because everything was Jesus this, Jesus that. She was talking to Jesus. And once we got to the re-enrollment of her as the white girl, because everyone can see her as white except for her family. Her family still thinks she's a beautiful black woman, black girl. But everyone else sees her as white, so they go and re-enroll her into her school as this little white girl. And then when she's in geography class and the teacher asked her where she was from, oh, the poor dear picks Kansas City. And she's supposed to be in 10th grade. And as a 10th grader, she doesn't know if it's Kansas City, Missouri or Kansas City, Kansas. And when the teacher asked her to point it out on the map, she couldn't. She said, Jesus, help me. So Jesus appears to her and helps her pick the correct city. I was like, oh, no, I'm done. I am done. I'm out. I can see where this is going. And, yeah, no. I was not going to subscribe to that foolishness any longer. Not doing it. Not doing it. Because I could see down the road that this book was going to be, Jesus did this for me, Jesus did that for me, and he is the reason, that we are all who we are, and we should love ourselves, and that's a great message, doll, but the whole Jesus thing was killing me. I couldn't take it any longer. So, and the audiobook was only like 6 hours long. If I couldn't take an hour of it, then those other 5 hours are probably just not. No. So, Twitter, you guys, I think you guys got this one right. That was a horrible book. And I'm sorry to the author, but this was a horrible book. Great premise, great sort of look, because there are some of us that have went through that sort of feeling of, what if I was a different race? Would my life be better? And in all actuality, it probably would. If I was white, if I looked different, not saying just my skin color, if my skin color was white, I would think that my life would be just a little bit better. I wouldn't have to work as hard as I do. I wouldn't have to repeat myself or, constantly prove that I am as knowledgeable as I am to those others, to the other races, to in the workforce or anything like that. It would have been different. But does that mean that I hate being black? Nope, not at all. I can just see that reality is reality, and I just work that much harder. You know, I don't put anything against any other race. I don't think I'm superior to any other race. I know that I have to work harder to get what I want, but I'm not going to fault someone for their privilege, because really that's what it is. So, whew, enough talk about that. The next book that I finished was Let Us Dream by Alyssa Cole. I place this in historical romance novella. I give this book 4 stars. I give it 2 Steam fans. I listened to it as an audiobook. I read it for Sabathon for characters that identify as similar to myself. And this is the Black author as well. This book follows Bertha, who is a cabaret owner in New York City in the 1900s. 1917. So you have women's suffrage going on. You have major segregation issues still in the United States. And it was like a Harlem setting. So yes, so many yeses. It did take me a little bit to get into this novella, but after it was all said and done, I was here for it. Amir is I want to say Indian, that has come over to the United States to make his life better, but then his visa ends up running out, or he's an illegal immigrant, and he has to sort of keep his head down. There are issues, with segregation, so he has to sort of keep his head down. When he meets Bertha, they sort of clash heads because she doesn't necessarily think that he understands what's going on, and he doesn't understand the new laws and things like that here in the United States, and they work together, and their love story sort of flushes out, and it's about more than just their love story. This story, it's about women's suffrage, it's about illegal immigration, it's about, their love and different cultures and being accepting and everything like that. So I really enjoyed this novella. The next book that I finished was Make Me Beg, which is Riggs Brother number 4 by Julie Kriss. I placed this in New Adult. I give it 4.25 stars. I give it 3 Steam fans. I read this as an ebook and a favor to the PR company for reading the other 3 books in this series. I read this for Romance Genreathon, and this is the conclusion of the Riggs Brothers. And I was so here for this book. I devoured this story. This story follows Dex, who is the ex-cop, and Lauren, who is the other twin that we met in book number 1. And she is the daughter of the sheriff, or cop, detective, one of the detectives in the town they live in. The Riggs brothers are from the other side of the town, or other side of the tracks. And Dex, he has been this no-nonsense, crazy character since the beginning. You didn't know what was going on with him. He was into drugs, and he was an ex-cop. People weren't sure if it was corrupt or if it was because, he just didn't care anymore. There's so much that's laid out here, and it was amazing. Lauren is a divorcee. Her and her ex got separated or got divorced because she couldn't have kids, and it was stressful for her, and she wants a baby. So her and Dex sort of hook up, and then you end up finding out his backstory and how the two of them actually have a history. Not new. They have a history, and I just really enjoyed it. Like I said, I devoured this book, and I'm so happy that I accepted the review copies of this entire series, the first 2 books on audio and the second 2 books as ebooks, because now that I have the full story, I can really say that I enjoyed it, and I am actually going to be looking forward to reading more by Julie Kriss. The next book that I finished was Chasing Him, which is Bishop Brother number 3 by Kennedy Fox. This is a new adult story. I give this book 4.5 stars. I give it 4 Steam fans. I read it as an ebook. I read it for Sabathon for putting off because the first 2 books in the Bishop Brothers series are on audiobooks, and this one was on ebook, and so is number 4. We met this character, John, who at the end of book number 2, he has a baby dropped off on his porch, and this is the story behind that baby, and John is now a single dad. I was loving some single dads this week. John's now a single dad having to run the B&B that the family owns, and he's dealing with becoming that good dad, and I was so here for it. I was here for it. Mila is a young woman that was lusting or had a crush on her best friend, but come to find out the best friend ends up getting another girl pregnant, so she takes the summer while she's waiting for jobs to come in now that she's graduated, and she loves kids and things like that. So while she's visiting her grandmother, Grandma and John's mom decide to do their matchmaking because it's a small town in Texas, and the 2 of them end up having sort of that, do I hook up with my nanny or don't I hook up with my nanny? I find her very attractive, but it would be unethical because she's watching my kid. Granted, they live together. Yeah. So, you know, another one of those. I was here for it. I loved it. And I loved how Mila and John end up working things out and how sweet it was. And it was just, it had sexy moments. I was here for those. Yes. Kennedy Fox loves to give me some sexy, and I'm here for it so much. So very much. The next book that I finished was She's the One by Ella Goode. I placed this in erotic LGBT novella. This is a female romance, and I give it 4.5 stars. I give it 3 Steam fans. I listened to it on the podcast of A Read Me Romance. And this book follows Maisie and Star. Maisie is sort of this closed off young lady. She's in college and she doesn't know really what she wants to do. You sort of are dropped into a conversation with her and her friends about guys and how they just want to see a dick, and you know, let's just get it over with. And she's like, I don't know that I want to do that. I don't know. Well, while she's trying to get away, she ends up running into Star and practically ripping Star's shirt off. I was like, Star is this sort of loner that knows what she wants. She's an artist, and it was just so much fun. So in their interaction, Maisie tells Star that she's going to replace her shirt, and some very interesting photos are passed between the 2. Star has a twin brother, and this story introduced us to him, and we are also introduced to Dally, who is Maisie's best friend. This story made me go and get the next book that I'm going to talk about, but just know that this book it's beautiful. It's coming of age, and it will make you want to read the next book, which was My Only One by Ella Goode, and this is an erotic novella, male-female, and like I said, this book, I give it 4.25 stars. I give it 3 Steam fans, and I read it as an ebook over on KU because of the first one that I listened to as an audiobook. This is a brother's best friend. He is also an investor, and both of the books that I just talked about, this one and the one right before it, they're all spin-offs of Ella Goode's series, and they're rich. I mean, Mac is rich, and he invests in Dally's dreams and things like that. The 2 of them have been put together because Maisie and Star are now together, so you may want to read the first one, or else you're going to be spoiled in this one for how Maisie and Star's relationship ends up going. But this is quite a few years down the line, and Mac has been sort of taking care of Dally and, you know, sort of showing her that he wants to be with him, and she just wasn't getting it. She had a crush on him, but she was like, he doesn't really wanna, and he doesn't like to be touched, except for by her, and the two of them, it's just so sweet. It's so sweet, and it's so sexy. I was like, ah! There's a couple scenes that you're just like, ooh, 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 ooh. Then there's a little bit of a thriller to it as well, or suspense to it, and I was just here for this. I was here for both of those two stories. I was like, yes, I need to read more Ella Goode, period. That's what it boils down to. The next book that I finished was Love on Lexington Ave, which is Central Park Pack number 2 by Layne, and I placed this in contemporary. I give this book 4.5 stars. I give it 2 Steam fans. I read it as an ARC. I'm so happy. I am so happy NetGalley gave me this book. I also read it for Sabathon for Blue on the Cover. I am so happy I got this book. I can't wait for book number 3 as well. So let me give you a little backstory. The Central Park Pack is these 3 women that bond over a douchebag. Lauren said that I could, you know, she said that's a fitting title for the reason these ladies are together. So we have Claire, who is the main character in this book, Naomi, who is the main character in the first book, and Audrey, who is the main character of book number 3, and our third pack person. They all bond over the douchebag that died, and one was married to him, which is Claire in this book, and then we have the 2 mistresses. So, whew, this book is Claire. She is the jaded widow who was like, I'm done with men. He was a douche, and I don't want to have anything else to do with men. And I have this out-of-date brownstone that we used to live in together, but you know what? I am no longer vanilla. I need to shake up my life. I need to find out what I want. What is about me? What is it about me that I love? I need to love me. And I don't need a man and things like that. So she ends up hiring Scott, who is the contractor friend of some other characters. You end up meeting you meet everybody, and everybody, it's just a really good story. But Scott is this contractor. He's gruff. He's just like, ugh. And when he consults with Claire about, you know, what she's looking for out of the brownstone and things like that, she's like, I no longer want to be vanilla. I need to be strawberry lemonade. So she goes out of her way to pick pink swatches for everything. She just wants to be a Barbie dream house in all pink, and Scott's like, you know, no, we're not doing that. But they come to a realization. He has issues from some things that happened to him in his past. Of course, we know that Claire needs to find herself after all the douchey things that her dead husband did to her. And I felt for both of these characters. I felt for him in his struggle. I felt for her in finding out how to break being vanilla and finding her own way and finding herself. And I just loved this book. I can't wait to get to number 3. This is probably a series that I would reread, and I definitely suggest my girlfriends to read this because it's so much fun and it's so sweet, and the banter between them is so great. There's a couple sexy time scenes that I was so here for. I was like, oh, okay. Oh, okay. Yes, that was very interesting. But it's not too sexy that you're like, can we not have another? No, they are perfectly placed sex scenes, and I was, yes, here for it. Then the final book that I read last week was The Dugout by Meghan Quinn, and I placed this in New Adult. I give this book 4.5 stars. I give it 2 Steam fans. I read it as an ARC, and I am saying that I'm reading this for Sabathon, for nostalgic. This Carson, he ends up getting injured in his junior year before the draft. And so he has to rehab and spend the extra senior year working on getting his, getting his play back to where it should be so that someone will draft him. In that, he stops hitting. He sort of loses his way. And in walks Millie. Millie is this phenomenal kinesiologist. Is it kinesiologist? She's like a sports person. She does stats. She can look at videos and studies them and researches them to tell baseball players what they're doing wrong. So she ends up sassing him and helping him with his baseball swing to get him hitting and stuff like that again. They forge a friendship and then turn to lovers, and I was here for it. And once again, Meghan did this thing where the 80% mark, she made me want to throw my Kindle. This time I didn't want to really throw my Kindle. It just made me sob and cry and hurt my heart. So I sort of felt like it was coming because everything was all nice and sweet and touching and so beautiful. And I was like, it's coming. It's coming. Meghan's going to either make me want to throw my Kindle or she's going to rip my heart out. Well, she ripped my heart out and made me just not feel very good. But this time she didn't make us wait too long for the wrap up of, how Carson and Millie found their love. And it was so good. So good. If you like baseball, if you like new adults, definitely go check this out. Alrighty, let's get into what I am currently reading. I am currently reading I Want to Text You Up by Teagan Hunter, and this is the second book in the texting series. I'm not exactly sure which characters this follows. I just know I really enjoyed the first book, and I wanted to read this one because I will be seeing Teagan at ApollyCon in 2020. So if all goes right, she doesn't cancel, I would like to have her books read. Yep, that's why I'm reading that one. And I'm also reading The Unexpected Plan by Leddy Harper. I'm reading this as an arc. This book comes out later on this month. I have no clue what this book is about, but I love Leddy Harper, and that's the reason I'm reading it. I am also reading Being Super Extra and reading 9 other books that are now flashing across your screen for Nameathon. And if you don't know what Nameathon is, it's a reading challenge that's being hosted by Under the Covers blog and Ideally Reviewed. I did a whole video about what I'm reading and about these books and things like that. So check out that video. I'll link it up there. And yeah, that is what I'm currently reading. Alrighty, this video was super long. Sorry. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Like I said, make sure that you use the timestamps if there's something you specifically want to read. Let me know about that idea that I put in the beginning of the video. So if you don't know what that is, I guess you're going to have to rewind. Other than that, as always, if you enjoyed the video, please give me a big thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Also, there is a feedback form down in the description box so you guys can help me improve my channel. Thank you for watching, and we will see you guys later.